The first time Michael saw her, she looked lost, fragile, and painfully exhausted, as if life had been scraping pieces of her day after day until nothing was left except her trembling hands. She walked into the tiny corner cafe at exactly 7:25 a.m., clutching an old handbag and staring at the menu as though she was trying to solve a complicated puzzle. Michael, waiting in line with his 6-year-old daughter, Ella, noticed her confusion. She wasn't just choosing, she was calculating. Her lips silently moved over the prices, her fingers squeezing the strap of her bag. Her eyes showed hunger, yet she stepped back, ready to leave without buying anything. That morning, something inside Michael pushed him forward, and before his mind could catch up, he had already paid for her coffee and a small croissant. She stared at him, stunned, as if kindness was a language she thought she had forgotten. She whispered the softest thank you, barely audible, and hurried out as though she didn't deserve even those few crumbs. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, second chances, and humanity still matter in this world, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps spread more heart-touching stories like this one. The next morning at the same time, she returned. Same clothes, same quiet desperation, same hesitation before the counter. And once again, Michael stepped forward and paid. She looked at him with eyes filled with confusion, gratitude, and fear, the kind of fear that comes from wondering what someone might want in return. But Michael didn't want anything. He simply nodded with a gentle smile, holding Ella close as she tugged on his sleeve, curious but silent. And the woman retreated again without sitting, without talking, without looking back like someone who didn't know how to stay anywhere long enough to belong. Day after day, this strange ritual unfolded like a silent scene repeated in a film. She arrived, she stared, she hesitated, and Michael bought her breakfast. She never asked, never stopped him, never even sat down to eat it there. She would step aside, take the bag, clutch it with both hands, and walk out as if she was running from the world. Other customers started noticing. Baristas whispered. Some judged, shaking their heads, assuming she was using him. But Michael didn't care. He had faced enough judgment himself. He knew what it was like to be on the receiving end of people's assumptions. He had once been a husband, a homeowner, a cheerful father with a promising future. Then cancer took his wife. Bills swallowed their savings and grief crushed everything else. He became a single dad working double shifts at a construction site, holding brokenness together with nothing but determination, and the hope that his daughter would grow up knowing kindness, not loss. Ella loved their morning stops at the cafe. She always held her pink backpack close, wearing mismatched socks and hair clips shaped like stars her mother used to buy. She never complained, never asked why her father paid for the mysterious woman. She only watched her with the innocent curiosity of a child trying to understand a grown-up world that often made no sense. Sometimes, Ella smiled at the woman, but the woman never smiled back. She seemed scared to make eye contact, as if smiling might reveal more than she had left to offer. After almost 3 weeks, the woman finally did something different. Instead of running out the door, she walked to a table in the corner and sat down. She carefully unwrapped the croissant, piece by piece, eating slowly like someone who had forgotten how it felt to taste food. She sipped the coffee gently, closing her eyes after every swallow, as if memorizing the warmth. Michael pretended not to stare, but he saw everything. The trembling hands, the hollow cheeks, the way she leaned over the cup, protecting it like a treasure. It felt like watching a soul eat hope for the first time. In a very long time. As days passed, the woman started staying longer. She still avoided talking to anyone, but her eating became less frantic. Her shoulders loosened. The fear didn't vanish, but it paused occasionally. Sometimes she glanced at Ella's star-shaped hair clips, and a softness flickered in her eyes, like a memory she didn't dare touch. One morning, Michael gave Ella an extra hair clip to wear. A silver one shaped like a moon. The woman noticed it, and suddenly tears filled her eyes. She wiped them away quickly and looked down, hiding her face. Michael didn't know why, but somehow that tiny moon had reached her. Weeks rolled into months. The cafe community became used to the morning ritual. Some people brought her napkins, others offered extra pastries. A few even smiled at her. She never responded to any of it. Only Michael's consistent kindness seemed allowed to exist in her guarded world. And through all of this, no one knew her name, no one asked. It did not matter. She was simply the woman in the morning, broken, silent, surviving, until one morning, she wasn't there. Michael felt something strange, an ache, as if a missing person had left a hole in their routine. Ella asked where she was. He couldn't answer. The second day passed with no sign of her. Then the third. Baristas whispered again, but now with worry instead of judgment. On the fourth day, Michael left early for work, unable to stop wondering whether something terrible had happened. It wasn't until the ninth day that she returned. But this time, everyone froze. She walked in wearing new clothes that actually fit, hair brushed neatly, skin clean though still pale. Her trembling hands were steadier, her eyes clearer. And she wasn't alone. A tall man in a suit walked beside her, holding a folder. Her shoulders were still cautious, but now there was something else. Dignity, like someone who had finally slept, eaten, and breathed without fear. She looked around the room, scanning every face until her eyes found Michael and little Ella. She walked toward them, slow, deliberate, as if trying not to break the moment forming in the air. Everyone in the cafe fell quiet. Cups stopped clinking, whispers died, even the coffee machine seemed to hush itself. The woman stopped right in front of Michael, and for the first time, she spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Her voice shook but carried a strength that silenced the room completely. She said she had been homeless for over a year, running from an abusive home, sleeping in shelters and sometimes on the streets. She had lost her job, her documents, her savings, everything except the old handbag she clung to every day. She had given up on strangers, on trust, on the idea that anything good still existed. But one morning, a single father showed her kindness without judgment, and then he did it again and again and again. He treated her like a human when she felt invisible to the world. She said that simple, consistent kindness gave her the courage to apply for help again, to go to a support center, to meet a social worker who helped her get temporary housing and a job. She whispered that the moon-shaped hair clip Ella wore reminded her of her daughter, the little girl she had lost custody of during her darkest days. She had been fighting to get her daughter back, and now she finally had a court hearing scheduled. She pointed to the man beside her, her lawyer. The cafe staff stood frozen. Customers stared in disbelief. Some cried silently. The woman bowed her head and thanked Michael in front of everyone. Not for the coffee, not for the croissants, but for giving her back a reason to believe she was still worth saving. She said his kindness saved two people, her and her daughter. Michael stood speechless, overwhelmed. He never expected recognition, never imagined that his simple acts could ripple into someone's new life. Ella tugged at his hand, confused but smiling at the woman who looked less like a ghost, and more like someone waking from a long nightmare. The woman turned to Ella, kneeling down to meet her eyes, and whispered that she reminded her of hope. People in the cafe started clapping softly, then louder, until it filled the entire room. Tears streamed down faces. Strangers hugged each other. Kindness spread like warmth through a cold room that had suddenly found its heart. If this story has touched your heart in any way, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe so we can continue sharing stories that remind the world of hope, compassion, and second chances. Before we close, we have one special request. Please comment below. Kindness can save lives. Let the world see how many hearts still believe in humanity. In a world where many walk past the suffering unnoticed, one single father turned an ordinary cafe into a place where humanity returned to life. And sometimes, that's all it takes. One small, consistent act of kindness to remind someone that they are still seen, still valued, and still capable of being saved. May we all carry that lesson with us, not just in cafes, but in every corner where a little kindness could change the course of an entire life.